there's not a great big reveal at the end that I'm going to code or anything, but I want you to understand that, I build companies, make them big, take them forward, and how we're thinking about AI chat and how we're taking AI chat into the world and being quite successful right now. So that's the context of my discussion today. Feel free to ask me questions anytime. I'm going to bust through it pretty quickly. I call it the big room presentation. We'll have a little bit of fun and go from there. Just told you I'm Bob Caldwell. We just rebranded. We've been called Sciencio for about 3 years. Nobody can say it, nobody can spell it. So about a week ago, we rebranded to 42 Chat, which is a hell of a lot easier to say or spell. So we're very excited about that. Yes, indeed. So my premise was, what's the future of AI chat? Is it a fad? I'm going to remove some of the excitement and mystery. We make AI chatbots, so I pretty much think it's the future of AI chat. This is the most exciting thing that is me and my family going down the roller coaster in Hershey, PA. So when we look at a fad, if we're going to talk about this concept of a fad, what is it? It's about a widely held sort of craze, something that everybody jumps onto and gets excited about it. So I said, okay, well, let me take a step back and think about what are some of the fads that we think about in society, right? You start out, you say, okay, a couple years ago it was Pokemon Go. It was kind of cool. Everyone was looking at their phone and walking around and outside. Before that, it was the spinners, the fidget spinners, right? Before that, it was the Beanie Babies, right? And then perhaps the greatest fad in the history of my lifetime, the mullet, right? Everybody had a mullet and they were going there, and you said, well, gosh, is this, was it just a fad? Well, you know what? There was like entire bands that did their thing with the mullet, right? And you look at these guys and you say, okay, well, gosh, that had to have just been in the 80s, right? Yeah. Here's their tour poster from this year, right? So some fads last, some fads keep going. This is one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. Now, let's look at business fads, right? Exactly, right? My jokes are hitting somewhere. All right. The first is this concept that we're going to build this brand new company. We're going to have a slide in the front room, and that'll be fun. And man, there's going to be ping pong tables, and we're all going to be playing ping pong and thinking and learning, and that's just like, yeah, it's great. I'm a business guy. That stuff's cool. It's a nice idea. The concept is pretty cool, but the reality is the most useful thing most people do with a ping pong table is turn it into a conference room, right? So it's really about understanding this process, the process of going through technology fads especially. You guys are at the very cutting edge. You're talking about new software development, you're talking about new software programs, new ways to use this stuff. And it's really like, okay, how do you get to the next level? And so if you say, okay, well, let's take a look at it. You say, let's take a look at the business fads, right? Let's take an AI in particular. So I went and said, okay, for just a 3-month period, I went and clipped a couple of headlines, right? How bots are going to impact the way we live, 5 technologies to transform fintech, right? Chatbots are going to drive $112 billion in sales by 2023. That same 3-month period, right? Why didn't chatbots live up to their hype? Does your company need a chatbot? And my personal favorite, 50 Shades of Chatbot, what to do after the sexiness is gone, right? It's kind of like, okay, wait a second. The market can't decide what's happening, right? So we step back and say, well, in the words of the great philosopher, Boris Johnson, it's easy to make promises, it's really hard to keep them, right? I don't know if this is a commentary on Brexit, but the bottom line is the concept of leaving the EU seems like a great idea, but the actual making it happen is just like a crazy mess. And this is what we call the technology timeline. Okay, so if you look at the technology timeline, it starts at the beginning. It says, hey, listen, there's a technology trigger. Everybody gets super excited. Woo! This is awesome. Yay, it's going to change the world. We got all these expectations. Yeah, that's the ping pong table. We're all going to be playing ping pong. It's going to be great. Okay? And then everybody says, well, wait a second. This is actually really, really tough stuff. Right? The previous speaker was talking about, wait a second, AI. Yeah, it's really smart. It's great. But it turns out it's a bunch of little problems that are really hard. Right? And you have to one by one make them big. And that's why you get to this trough of disillusionment. But eventually, you get to the plateau of productivity. And what do you get? Hey, we're going to use that ping pong table as a conference table. We're going to use the technology in a way that actually makes business sense. It's going to drive a successful outcome, right? It's something we can actually sell that solves a business problem, right? So that's kind of how we're coming at it. Now, if we look at this concept of innovation, great thinker, we're big fans of Clay Christensen from Harvard Business School. He said, look, there's 2 real kinds of innovation, right? There's sustaining innovation, and this is taking a product and making it incrementally better, kind of like the AI you were talking about just a few minutes ago. And then there's disruptive innovation, which is doing a whole new thing, something completely new, out of almost whole cloth. If we look at a couple of examples, right? And I promise I'll make this all come back to AI, so just hang with me for a minute. Take a look at the razor. Razor started as a single blade, and then Gillette said, you know what? We're going to have 2 blades. And they said, you know what's better than 2 blades? 3 blades. And then 4, and now 5, and now you've got the little lube stick on the top. You got all this. That's incremental improvement. That's sustaining innovation. Coca-Cola had the greatest formula ever. They tried New Coke. I don't know, a lot of you guys are younger, you probably don't remember that. Didn't work. Cherry Coke. Now they got lime Coke. Now they got this Coke. It is sustaining innovation. They're making little ones. And the greatest sustaining innovation of all time, Apple iPhone. Right? We're going to give you a port. We're going to take it away. You're going to have sound. You're going to have earbuds. Right? These are all, none of these are particularly incredible. The original iPhone was disruptive. Since that point, it's just been a series of moves. Okay. Now let's look at disruptive innovation, right? Clearly the computer, right? IBM sort of missed the personal computer boat. That sort of fundamentally changed computing power in the future. The World Wide Web, right? And you look at it, started right here, and you've got this incredible access to information. And then finally, this one I love, Uber, right? And I can remember a few years ago, my friends were like, hey, do you Uber? I'm like, what the hell's an Uber? Like, I don't know. And I'm not that guy that gets way out in the technology front. Now I'm like, yeah, I got Uber, I got Lyft, I got 7 different scooter apps because I go to all these cities around the world. And it's like, okay, wait, there's a Bumble, there's a, it's crazy number. And then you see a bunch of fat old people on a scooter. It's kind of fun. Anyway, all right. So now let's take a deeper dive into a case study. How many of you guys remember Blockbuster? All right. All right. Now I remember back. Now you guys are probably a little too young. A couple of you guys seem to be sort of in my age group, right? Back in 1999, you walked into Blockbuster and you saw this many videos. It was about to be lit. It was going to be a good night because you were going to get yourself some Notting Hill, take it home and have a big date night with your wife, right? Well, then something kind of happened because they kept growing. They're like, hey, they got 9,000 stores and $6 billion in revenue. And all of a sudden, bang, they sort of disappeared. But they did. They got hit by some initially sustaining disruption and then some innovative and completely new. So if we look at the sustaining side, you look at Netflix. We all think of Netflix now because we like pop it up on our screen and we're watching stuff. But they started as a home delivery service, right? So their sustaining improvement was that you could go get stuff. You could go order your DVD and it would show up in your mailbox. So now you didn't have to worry about whether you're going to see this on this night. It showed up in your mailbox. And most importantly, you didn't have late fees. If you think about this, Blockbuster made $600 million at their peak on late fees. A core part of their business model was penalizing their customers for using their service, right? And that's Netflix is like, yeah, we can fix that. And Redbox said, hey, we can also fix that. Now, not only you don't have to get it to your mailbox, you can come to Walmart or a grocery store or wherever you want and come get it right there. And you can return it anywhere, at any time, for a reasonable fee. That was cool, right? Well, then, and so their sustaining innovation was primarily around the real estate costs, right? Because Blockbuster had these massive real estate costs for all the physical locations. Okay. So then you say, what about disruptive innovation? What happens there? Well, the internet came along. And all of a sudden, I have an infinite number of copies of that movie. I can just push a button and get it. I don't need any real estate except for server real estate, which, as we know, is pretty cheap, right? It's become super easy, and I'm going to pay one low fee, and I can watch as much as I want. Man, that's disruptive, right? But it didn't take off right away, right? The one most important part that they brought, you could use the devices you already had.